Seems my life is finally coming together. Feels so good, don't think I've ever been better. It's clear to me my future will bring the peace I've been longing for in mine forevermore. It's a new day. Come on. Come on in, come on in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. For every door that goes through. Come on in, come on in, come on in. This is the Boss Lady coming in, and this is the Boss Lady Movement Live. Tuesday night live here at 7 o'clock. We are super excited because we are continuing a conversation that we started last week. And guess what? We are in the month of April, a refreshing month. God is doing a new thing. This is a new day. Every single week that we're able to come together, we are being blessed with a new day because what we gain from the Boss Lady Movement, guess what? We take what's been poured out and we apply it to our lives. And guess what? Every new day that we're blessed with, we get to apply what's been learned and get to walk successfully in all that's been gained as we come together on this platform. And so with that being said, this is the Boss Lady. Come on through here, bringing other sisters into success. I am Elder Tanya Russ, and I am super excited about tonight. We got a special guest with us again on tonight. Of course, last week we had two special guests, and guess what? One is coming back because we are honoring our single mothers this month. And the discussion that we were having last week was so powerful. I could not help but ask her to come back on and join me again. Miss Michelle Russell, come on, somebody. Dr. Tamika Duncan's mother. She blessed our souls last week. And so with that being said, since we are honoring single mothers this month, I thought that it would be so wonderful for her to come back and just kind of share some more as she was sharing last week on her journey as it relates to being a single mother, all that she endured, her faith and how it played a major part in her journey. Y'all go ahead and like, love, and tag someone. Let them know that we are on. Invite some friends, invite some followers. Let them know that we are here on the Boss Lady Movement, and we are super excited about this discussion on tonight. Tonight, we are talking about the single mother and stress. We're talking about how stress has the possibility, has the let me see, how can I put this? How stress has the potential to affect single mothers as you are going through your day-to-day journey. We all know that oftentimes many of us have been brought up to be strong, independent women. But as we go through our day-to-day lives as mothers, as women, but even most importantly, as single mothers, stress can really, really play a major part, can have an impact on our lives. It can impact us negatively, but guess what? There's also healthy stressors as well too. But we want to talk about how stress impacts us along the way. And then too, even she's going to even share some techniques and some strategies, some ways that we can navigate stress, the potential for stress, or navigate those things when it comes to stress, how it can affect us, how not. Anyways, we're going to let her tell you all about it. So y'all come on in, like, love, tag someone, let them know that we are on. This is the Boss Lady checking in, and I'm super duper excited to have our guest back on with us on tonight. What a beautiful woman of God she is. Y'all go ahead and remember, if you have questions or comments, just put them on in the chat and let somebody know that we are on. Tag a single mother. With this being April, and this month we are celebrating our single mothers. I'm doing something special every Tuesday as well too. I'm looking for who's tagging single mothers, and we're going to put the single mothers names that are on the platform, that are on the live. We're going to put their names in a contest, in a or on the spinning wheel, and we're going to be giving away some free gifts this month as well too. If you would like to donate towards that, by all means you can do so through the Cash App. Let me see, $TRRUSS. $TRRUSS. If you want to help support the movement by any ways, any means, whatever donation or whatever else, because we are actually out here. I do a lot of stuff in trying to make sure that our ladies are not forgotten. But I love to love on people. So if you guys want to play a part in that, by all means, feel free to do so. You can do that by just donating through the Cash App. That's totally fine. But guess what? It's coming out. It's all going right back out to you guys, because I just want to take an opportunity to be able to. It's going to be done regardless. But if you want to sow a seed into the effort, by all means, you're open and you're able to do so. So with that being said, I'm getting ready to bring on our special guest for tonight. I need you guys to go ahead and start like, loving, and tagging someone. Let them know that we are on, because we don't want anyone to miss what's going on tonight. As she's going to be sharing, I'm going to be tagging and inviting some people, and I hope that you will as well, because this tonight, what we're going to be able to receive is something that's going to be we're going to get some great wisdom, some gems going to be dropped. So by all means, we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to be able to receive what's going to be shared on this evening. So without further ado, guess what? I'm fixing to bring our guest on this evening. Let's see here. Make sure I got her. There she is. Good evening, Miss
Hello.
Michelle.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, come on
Good
in and
evening.
just
Yeah,
go.
it's evening now. Good
Yes,
evening.
it is. It is. And guess what? I'm already look. I'm over my mama's tonight, so I feel like I'm out of pocket. But
Mm-hmm.
she got me ready. She got me some little tissues, because I'm already in here trying to break a sweat.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started. I am so excited, of course. As I mentioned, we are literally just going to be continuing the conversation that we started last week. It was such a powerful conversation. I was so blessed. I know so many others were so blessed as well too. And I really want to make sure that with us honoring our single mothers, of course, I wanted to just take a moment. You blessed me so much last week, even as a single mother yourself. I just want to take a moment to just honor you, and just
Thank
to tell
you.
you how much I appreciate your willingness to share your testimony, the wisdom that you have been sharing, and what you're going to share this evening. I want you to know that everything that you have done, the beauty that I see, even in your blessing of your children, and everything that you've endured in life. I thank God for you. I
Thank
thank God
you.
for
Thank you.
you.
I appreciate that.
And like I shared before, oftentimes, month of May, we honor mothers in general,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think that we often acknowledge single mothers as much as we should. Of
Right.
course, there's a stigma that's always been there. If you're like me, growing up, having a child out of wedlock was
Mm-hmm.
something that was very frowned upon. And so, regardless of whether it was or not, I remember there were times where if someone was pregnant, teen, regardless of if they were not married, they would oftentimes sometimes sit them up in front of the church and make them have to do this whole spiel about,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and I remember my heart used to ache a lot of times when those things would happen, because we don't realize that that too is traumatizing. That's
Yeah.
traumatizing. Is something that sticks with women for throughout their whole, their journey in life, and it has the potential to really, really damage them in a sense, because that's a chip off of their self esteem.
Right.
that's where the pricking and the chipping, the opinions, the words that people speak, the things that are said and done, it begins to
Mhm.
have such a negative effect. And guess what? Stress becomes a world that single mothers live in unnecessarily. If you ask
Yeah,
me, I do believe
yeah,
it's unnecessary because we're supposed to be here to love people regardless of their state of being, love them through, be a support, be encouragement. But so many ladies, women, whoever, whether it's a single woman and whatever age they may be, young adult on up,
yeah.
it affects us in such a mighty way. I had two children, and I was not married, but I do remember the stress that came with knowing here I am, not just pregnant the one time, but then, of course, when I got pregnant again, and I wasn't married at that
Mhm.
time. And even though we've been raised as strong, independent women, it has such a major effect on
Yeah,
us mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, all
yeah.
these areas, and yes, spiritually, because here we are. And I say, Holy Spirit laid this on my heart not too long ago. Church hurt really is the worst hurt because
Oh yeah.
it's the church that hurts you the most.
Mhm.
And we don't realize that that's not what we're here for. And so,
Exactly.
with that being said, Miss Michelle, I just want to just open up with, last week you shared, how you had Dr. Tamika and you were 16 at the time. You were right
Mhm.
there before your 17th birthday, I believe, right?
Yeah,
Three
yeah, about
months
3 or 4,
before.
yeah, she was born in July, and my birthday is in October, so,
Yeah.
yeah, she was
So
born, what, August, September, about 3 months.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
for
And
mine.
and as a teen, and this is a whole nother discussion because for me, I found myself pregnant as a teen as well too. I believe I was 17, but I made a choice at that time to have an abortion. I was
Mhm.
very afraid of what everybody was going to have to
Yes.
say and stuff or whatever. And that in itself was stressful. But to
Mhm.
be a single mother, having you took, I heard you say last week, you took the stand and said, I'm not doing that. I'm not
Mhm.
having an abortion. I'm not giving my baby away. I'm not doing, but I want you to share, um, in that moment of your life. I know as a teen, we're still going through puberty.
Yeah, yeah.
If you could remember some of the things back then and that was said, how you were made to feel, how did that impact you at that particular point in time? As we're talking about single mothers and stress, how does something like that have such an how did it affect you at that time of your life?
Um, I was scared,
Yeah, I
honestly,
believe you. Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but I was raised by my paternal grandparents,
Mhm.
and although my grandmother was very loving, my grandfather, he could be mean,
Yeah.
and as you know, because he put me out of the house because I
Mhm.
did get pregnant, right?
Yeah.
So I was just scared. I didn't know what to do at first. It took me, I think I was probably 4 months pregnant before I told
Mhm.
my grandmother, before I have
Wow.
enough nerve to tell her.
Right. Right.
And then she looks at me and says, "Well, I know you done died. How many? I don't know how many deaths you done died, but I already knew it. I was just been waiting on you to tell me." And I was
Wow.
like, so I sat at the table with her, crying, crying. But my biggest fear was after telling her
Mhm.
what was gonna happen when my grandfather found out.
Right. Right. Right.
And so, of course, I told my little high school boyfriend, which was Tamika and John, my children's father, and
Mhm.
who would later become my husband.
Mhm.
I told him, and then um, the pressure became. It just became pressure for both of us to try to explain it. How are we going to tell? How was he going to tell his parents? And how was I going to tell my grandparents? And
Yeah.
I just remember hearing things like, I think my grandfather said that little fast gal or something like that.
Mm.
His mom, jumped all over him and was saying the same thing. And she came back years later and told me, that when she did that, he did stand up for me and say, it's not Michelle's fault. We
Mm-hmm.
both did this. So you
Yeah.
can't blame her. She wasn't being fast. Oh, okay. It's like it wasn't like she was just fast and just out there,
Mm-hmm.
how they
Mm-hmm.
say that little
Right.
fast
Right.
girl.
Right.
So, but again, I was scared. I didn't know how or what my friends were gonna say.
You just
I
read
had
my mind. Yeah. Because I
my
was going
yeah,
to ask about
I had a
friends and stuff.
girlfriend actually. Um, she was in the same grade that I was, but she was older than me. I don't
Mm.
know if she had repeated a grade or whatever, but she had a son in high school, right? And for some reason, before all this happened with me, she and I, we were just really good friends. We became really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
She had no influence on me whatsoever when it came to this. You know what I
Right.
mean? But I
Right.
do remember having a friend, and I was just, trying to figure out. It's like, okay, who am I going to tell if I tell anybody?
Right.
You but I was just scared. I was really,
Mm-hmm.
really scared. And then
Yeah.
once I did get up enough nerve to tell my grandfather, John, he came over. He told his parents, but then he came over with me.
Mm-hmm.
His parents, my grandmother knew, but my grandfather still didn't know. So he came
Mm-hmm.
over one evening after school, and we sat down, and told my grandfather, and that's when everything really hit the fan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said something when you were talking about trying to figure out who you were going to tell, if anybody. And
Hmm.
oftentimes, as single mothers, we carry a load, and privacy is like a major thing.
Hmm.
The privacy is one thing, but the fear is a whole nother thing, because the fear of being rejected, or the fear
Hmm.
of being abandoned and people walking away from you, the fear of having to face the comments and what others may
Yeah.
have to say, all of that has such a major effect on us on a regular basis, but especially when you are in a place where you find yourself in a position or in such a situation where you're trying to figure it all out for yourself, but yet you still have to figure out how you're going to be able to make it through whatever it is too.
Hmm.
And here, not only were you trying to care for yourself, you're living under some extreme conditions, and those conditions began to weigh heavy. So one thing that I began to think about was how, even though we may not always verbalize a lot of things, stress can really, really play a number on you.
Hmm.
And the way that it does is not something a lot of times that we see automatically on the outside, but it starts to get us on the inside. And
Right.
the more we ignore it, the worse it becomes, because it's only going to continue to build up over a period of time. I know that with the situation, what you were saying, number one, to find out that you were pregnant, number two, to have to tell your grandparents, number three, to get put out. One thing that I can say that I appreciate you sharing, and I applaud, and I will say this, because I thank God that He didn't leave you there to have to tell them by yourself,
Hmm.
your children's father.
Yeah.
Um, I'm grateful to hear that, because oftentimes we don't realize just how our presence, how just having someone there that understands, or someone there that you can connect with. Because I know that you said you had a friend and you were trying to figure out if you were going to share with them or not.
Hmm.
um as women, when we go through things in life, we build up walls based upon what we've experienced in the past.
Right.
And so if you felt like there was no one that you could have turned to at that particular point in time, that's a whole stress in itself.
Yeah.
That's a whole another level of stress, because at 17, you're right there. There's still a lot of growing left to be done.
Oh yeah.
Um, Share with them, as you became a single mother, as you know, once, who's older, Dr. Tamika or your son?
Dr. Tamika. Tamika
Is
is,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
They're 2.5 years apart, so she's the oldest.
Okay. So
Yeah.
tell us about how that worked when you had her and even going through pregnancy and stuff. You know how your body is always changing and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Managing those things, those and let's define stress because I always like to make sure that let me do this first. I should have did that first. Let me give you guys a definition of stress because oftentimes um, we feel like we already know everything. We feel like because we're not expressing it on the outside, that means that we're
Mm-hmm.
not stressed.
Right.
When we become we become professional mask wearers is what I
Mm-hmm.
we're very good at wearing a mask, because
Yep.
that's how we've been trained. You be strong, don't let them see you crying,
Mm-mm.
don't do this. But we don't realize that the more we hold things in and we leave
Yeah.
it unresolved, it only damage does more damage over a period of time. So let me give this definition. Stress can be defined as a state of worry or mental tension caused by a difficult situation. Stress is a natural human response that prompts us to address challenges and threats in our lives. Everyone, and I love that it says that everyone experiences stress to some degree.
Yeah.
And so, with that, tell us a little bit about like when you had Dr. Tamika, how did that roll out? When you had her, I know that you said that you were put out. How did you navigate life at that time? Um, you became a single mother, like literally single by
Yeah.
yourself. So how did that work for you?
Um, so once I found out, that I was gonna have to leave, and now mind you, this was kind of a double whammy for me because I had
Yeah.
been with my grandmother ever since I was like a year and 10 months old. So that was the
Mm,
only mother figure I really had. I knew
right.
who my mom was, but in
Mm-hmm.
terms of you know raising me and instilling things in me and teaching me things about life, she was it for me.
Yeah.
And so that really just tore me up too. I
Mm.
listen, I'm feeling a little teary eyed, but
It's
that really
okay.
just tore me up. The fact that
Mm-hmm.
uh, I was gonna be separated from her. Um, my parents, I don't know how my parents found out. I believe my aunt came to get me, my dad's sister from Michigan. So she came down. I went to live with her.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know if the plan was for me to originally go to my father's,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew that he knew. And at some point, my mom found out as well, because
Mm-hmm.
I was really close to her oldest brother in Michigan as well. But anyway, so the stress didn't really begin until even more stress began after I left. I was uprooted and
Mm.
left. So I
Oh yeah.
finished out that first semester
Uprooted.
of high school,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't showing, you couldn't even tell I was pregnant.
Mm.
I don't think I really started showing. I didn't really start sticking. My little belly didn't start sticking out till I was about 5, almost 6 months pregnant. By that
Mm-hmm.
time, I had already transitioned back, or had moved to Michigan. So it was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like I just switched schools in the middle of the school year. For those
Right.
people that didn't know what was going on with me,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
did tell one girlfriend because, like I said, I was a junior in high school and I got tapped to be a debutante. This
Oh,
young
got
lady
you.
tapped me to be a debutante. So I
Mm-hmm.
had to tell her
Mm-hmm.
why I would not accept it or why I couldn't do it. I
Got
felt like
you.
I owed her that much. But for the most part, didn't too many of my classmates know. I have a cousin that was a year ahead of me. He and John were in the same grade. I think I told Robert because he and I were really close. He's like my brother. And but so I think my stress really started compiling. So I get out of the situation with my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
go now. I'm in a not a new city to me. I had been there before, but now I'm going to a new school.
Mm.
I don't
Yeah.
know anybody,
Yeah.
and now I'm starting to show a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting to show. So that was stressful because I didn't know how students were going to receive me, or
Right.
what they were going to think, or if I would be ostracized, or just
Yeah.
kids can be mean.
Yes.
And
Yes. More so today.
oh yeah, yeah. I met one young lady and we were talking, we were in class, and she's one of my best friends to this very day. We've been friends for over 30
Oh
years.
wow. Wow.
And she said, I was standing by the corner of the desk and she was in the desk. You know how they had, with the desk.
With the little
She
mm-hmm.
said, Michelle, are you pregnant? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, oh, Michelle, and she just became my friend. You know,
Yeah.
when
That's
we would
nice.
talk in the hallways, we would talk, but it wasn't until that point that she realized that I was
Mhm.
pregnant, right?
Right. Right.
And I thought that, that her parents aren't gonna let her be my friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
Another stressor.
yeah. So I
Mm-hmm.
went to live, like I said, I went to live with my aunt and my uncle. And my uncle, he I love that man. Oh my God, he's been a blessing to my entire family.
Mm-hmm.
But at
Yeah.
that point, he put me on his insurance. He worked for General Motors. So I was able
Mm-hmm.
to get the health care that I needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I had Tamika, I was fearful because I didn't know what to expect. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm having a
Yeah.
baby. By this
Right.
time, we know where the babies come from.
Yeah.
We know
Literally.
how
Yeah.
they get here, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I was afraid of that. I had natural childbirth. The doctor made me have natural childbirth.
Wow.
It ain't nothing. He said, "You young, ain't nothing wrong with you. You gon' I couldn't get no epidural or anything. I had natural childbirth
What?
both times. Yeah. So I think the stress really started to really be things really became stressful more so after Tamika was born. I got
Mm-hmm.
through that period of telling my grandparents, being kicked
Mm-hmm.
out, moving
Mm-hmm.
to a new city, making new friends, um, and then preparing for her birth and all of that. Her father was going off to the military. Well, he had already gone off because he was a year ahead of me. And then it was the stress that hit me then was like, okay, how am I going to navigate my final year at school? Trying to go to school, trying to get homework done. It was just stressful. I couldn't participate, in the normal activities a
Right.
12th grader would participate in at that time anyway. Um, and my uncle, he would watch Tamika during the day while I go to school. I got out of school about 2:30, and the school
Mm-hmm.
was actually right across the street. So I
Oh
would come
wow.
home and he would have her fed and all that, and then I would take it from there. And then when my cousins got home, um, my older cousin of the three that was in the house, she would help me at nighttime with Tamika. Like sometimes she would get up, at night if Tamika was crying or whatever. She was like, I'll get her, Michelle." So she was instrumental in helping me. My stress didn't really kick in until my aunt, well, my family member, I'll just say it
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
that. She is just like my grandfather,
Mm.
and that just I guess a controlling, what I know now was a controlling spirit, and just harsh and hard in any way that she could make
Mhm.
something hard for me, she did it. And
Right,
now that I
right.
had Tamika, it's like it was worse
It
because
was
now I have this
magnified.
baby. It's like, what you gonna do now? You know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm. Mhm.
so to the point, that's why I told you that went on and on and on till Tamika was about a year old. And that's when I told you guys I got put out of the house when Tamika
Mhm.
was a year old.
Yeah.
She put me out of the house.
Okay.
So there's more
Mm.
trauma. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell the story.
You're
I don't know if
fine.
I'm
You
answering
are
your
on
question.
point. Yeah, you're fine.
But then she put me out of the house. And now you gotta realize all my family is in Michigan. I had an aunt
Mhm.
that probably lived 10 minutes from where I was living. I can remember, this is really when the stress and everything started, really got bad. I can remember asking my cousin to watch Tamika for me while I walked to the corner. I'm about to date myself for real, and use the payphone.
I remember the payphone.
I asked my cousin Keisha. I was like, "Can you watch Tamika for me while I go to the payphone?" And I went to the payphone to call. I said, "I'm gonna go call T. Claudette. That's our other aunt, my dad's baby sister." So I called her and told her what happened. She came and
Mm,
got me, took me to her house. Well, she had a baby that was just a few months older than Tamika. He was born in
mm,
March. Tamika was born in July, and she
wow.
had limited space. Well, Lord and behold, while I was at her house, my oldest aunt, her husband stopped by. My uncle. This is
Mm,
a second uncle.
mm-hmm.
And he was like, "What you doing over here? And what's going on?" And blah blah blah. And from that point, he was like, "Let me call Boot." That's what he used to call my aunt, my oldest aunt. And he was like, "No, no." And he loaded my stuff up in his car
Mm-hmm.
and took me home to his house, to their home. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I stayed. And my oldest aunt, she would watch Tamika during the day. She worked at night. She would watch Tamika during the day so I could go to school. And I would watch her children at night, their children at night,
Wow.
because they both work night
Mm,
shift.
mm-hmm.
And so yeah, that's that's um that's when it
You
started.
know, I love how you shared the backdrop because oftentimes we fail to realize, and even the single mothers that are on here, or may come back and watch the replay, or just single women in general, um, when we're going through, at times we feel like we're the only one and nobody else would be able to understand. And I
Mhm.
love this platform because, of course, when we say bringing other sisters into success, we're doing that through our transparency. We care enough to be transparent so that we can share how God has brought us through these seasons of our lives. And we understand this wasn't just in a matter of days, like this was a period of your life
Mhm.
that you were
Oh yeah.
enduring
Oh
all of
yeah.
these things. And in our lives on a day-to-day basis, whether it's now that we have young ladies, even my daughter, she's a single mother, and I tell her often, I know that not having things the way exactly the way that you want them can create a lot of stress and stuff. My heart has always been to try to help her not have to go through what I've had to endure myself. But
Right.
even still, through your transparency and being willing to share, someone that's watching this and someone else along the way may tell someone else, about this, and they can come to realize that, oh my goodness, somebody understands, because we
Yeah.
can feel like we are all by ourselves, and again, I'm not discounting mothers in general, but I am stressing how we have to look after one another, especially our single mothers, because there's a lot of sacrifices that come into place,
Mhm.
especially in this day and age. We know we talk about how much everything costs these days. Yes, we understand that God provides, but guess what? It's a process to get to the place to where we can feel like, okay, I think I can make it. And
Yeah.
this is a season that we're in where many are really, really under a lot of strains and a lot of stress. And we fail to realize just how much, because we get so caught up and we can overlook these things. But I think that what you're sharing, like, these are very major. There's a lot of trauma, because
Oh
when
yeah.
you talk about being torn, number one, you are already torn from your mother. Then
Mhm.
you find the nurturing that you need in your grandmother, and then you're torn from her as you're having to figure out how to be tap into your nurturing spirit yourself, because you have someone that you now are going to have to care for. But
Yeah.
one thing, as you speaking, and I do this all the time, one thing that came to my mind was Romans 8:28. And we talk about oftentimes when we're in the midst of our pain, we don't realize that there is still purpose in it. And
Yeah.
he says, for we know all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. And even if your purpose was right now to be able to pour back into another woman along the way, another single mother along the way, this is what's necessary. Like everything that you went through, if you're
Mhm.
like me, you don't want to see anyone else have
Mm.
to endure those things by
No,
themselves.
I
But
don't.
Yeah, letting them know that I understand. And guess what? Even if it's just having a listening ear or you need words of wisdom or something, that's what we are here to do.
Or yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
ma'am. And I
yeah.
want you to share. Go ahead. You want to say something?
No, I was just gonna say I don't know what the trajectory of my life where it was headed
Mm-hmm.
when it was I was well what we would call an interruption with me becoming pregnant,
That's
right?
good. Yes.
But from that point on, it was hell.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
of trauma.
Wow.
Um, from that point on, from the time I left my grandmother,
Mm,
it was just more trauma on more
mm.
trauma on more
And see,
trauma.
that just breaks my heart
Um,
because it's women that's enduring that very thing right there.
yeah, it was just a
Mm.
lot of trauma. And I'm sure I probably um got a little depressed maybe and didn't even really
Yeah.
know because even in the senior year, it's like I'm in another state. He dating
Mm-hmm.
other people, taking them to the prom,
Wow.
and I'm up here. I can't
Oh,
go to the
mercy.
prom because my belly
Yeah.
swell. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm sure that probably took a toll on me, but not a whole lot. You know what I mean? But I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure it probably did. Maybe I just don't remember. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
from that point on, of me being leaving that house with my grandmother, um, the next
Mm-hmm.
I would say 20, 30, 20,
Mm-hmm.
25 years.
Yeah.
Just,
Mm.
you know,
Wow.
trauma,
Wow.
trauma, trauma at
Yeah.
the hands of family members.
Oh, mercy. Mm-hmm.
But again, like I said last week, now that when I look back after I got to an age where I look back, it's like
Mm-hmm.
God was with me.
All along.
It's like,
Mm.
how the footsteps prayer, where
Yes.
they show the
Mm-hmm. That's
footsteps
one of
on
my
the
favorites.
feet.
Yes, ma'am.
That was me. He was carrying me because I
Wow.
just don't know. My quest was to become the mother that I always wanted.
Yes.
I wanted to be the mom to my children that I always wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I really do believe that Tamika, for that small time where she was alone, and then her father, we got married. So it's so many twists and turns in this story. I
Yeah.
told y'all I got a trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But you're fine. I'm following. I'm sure.
they
Yeah.
I believe it was them. They pretty much saved my life
Yeah.
because I was just destined. I mean, I was just determined that once I got out of that situation, once I
Mm-hmm.
got away from the trauma of family members, the traumatizing
Mm.
events of some family members, then I
Yeah.
ended up married. So I want to say this to somebody because, um, back then
Mm-hmm.
older people they would you would make a second mistake trying to fix a first
You're
so-called.
right. That's it. Yes,
So
ma'am.
children are getting married because
Mm-hmm.
there's a child involved.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look back, I'm not gonna say I didn't love John. I love John to the capacity of what I thought love was as a 17, 18 year old,
Yeah.
16, 17, 18
Understandable.
year
Yeah,
old.
that's good. Yeah.
And so we ended up married. I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
any business marrying him.
Mm.
And I found that out quick, fast, and in a hurry. But
Um,
to me, dealing with that was
yeah.
better than dealing with what I was dealing with,
Got you. Yeah. Yeah.
uh, you know, in my
Mm-hmm.
with my family life.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, it's just it was a lot of trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and I managed to finish. Like I said, I finished high school.
Mm-hmm.
God blessed me with a job. I had a job while I was in high school, so I would work, um, get out of school about 2:30. My very first job, I was a nursing assistant,
Mm-hmm.
and I would go to work from 3 to 11. By the time I got home by 11:30, then it was time for my aunt to get ready to do her night shift, and my uncle was
Mm-hmm.
already gone. So then I would
Mm-hmm.
be at home with Tamika. and my
Right.
two little cousins.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that played out until John and I got married. Then I ended up leaving and moving to where he was,
Mhm. Mhm.
and more trauma,
Mm.
more
Mhm.
trauma happened there. So, um,
So what I hear you saying when it comes to being a single mother, number one, marriage is not the quick fix. Don't assume
no,
that just because you are pregnant, that means that you just have to
no,
marry that
no,
individual.
that is not the
Um,
answer.
yeah, because oftentimes we can find ourselves in situations that will only further traumatize us.
Yeah.
Um, whether we know it at the time, we think, okay, what else do I have to lose? What I don't have any other way, I don't have any other means. But
Hmm.
then when you get in it, like you say, you learn quickly that that probably was not, even though it sounds good, it may not. So I appreciate you sharing that because that's telling us that, use wisdom and make
Yeah.
sure that we are really taking what did I think Bishop oh Bishop Walker, he said count the cost.
Yeah.
Count the
Hmm.
cost. And oftentimes, what we think will be, it may sound like a good idea.
Sounds
Oh, we
good.
could do
Yeah.
this, but you got to know what all comes with that as well, too. And so,
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that because a lot of times we have seen in the past where that's the quick fix for single
Yeah.
mothers. Oh, y'all
Yeah.
just need to go and get married. Well, what if
Hmm.
there's a man on the boat? What I'm gonna marry
Right,
him?
right. We didn't have any business when I look back, years later after I looked at it's like both of us, we were too young. I graduated from high school June 10th, 1984, and this was not planned. And I got
Hmm.
married. It wasn't until years later that I realized June 10th of 1985, I got married. Exactly
Wow.
one
A
year from
year later.
graduating high school.
Wow.
Yep.
That's interesting. Dr. Tamika's on here, and I don't know if
Is
you
it-
saw her message. She said, thank you, Mom, for your sacrifice.
Oh,
It
you're
couldn't be
welcome.
nobody
If
else
I
but
had to
her
do it
calling you
all over
Mom.
again, I would. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
you got some
Um,
amazing, and I don't even know your son. Now, where's your son at? What is his
my son
name?
lives in California. He lives in Southern California. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Right outside of LA, about an hour and a half. He's in San
Oh,
Bernardino
really?
County, going up towards Victorville is the city, but he's
Well, he's
closer
in an
to.
area. It's a area in California that I'm trying to get to because I want to go visit this ministry. It's in Simi Valley.
No, I think that's on the opposite end of him.
Is
I
it
want to say
okay?
Simi Valley. For some reason I feel like that's northern
Is
or
it
Orange County or something like that. But he is not far from Ontario. Whenever I go out there, I fly into Ontario Airport, Ontario, California. Yeah.
okay?
He's about
Okay.
45-minute drive from there. And I have two grandbabies. So he has a son and a daughter. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, Dr.
But yeah.
Tamika still got time. I don't know. I'm well. It one day. One day.
Well, you know what? I I kind of I think that might be I may have had something to do with that too because I went through such a traumatic. No, well, here's my reason for saying that because
Yeah.
things were so traumatic with me
Mm. Mhm.
and having them at a young age, especially with Tamika being the first,
Yeah.
I ingrained it into their head. I
Mm.
constantly, it's like no children out of wedlock. And I had to tell them, no,
Wow.
this is why you can't have any children while you're a teenager or you in high school. You know what I mean? Because I did not want
Mm.
anything to happen to them that I didn't want them to experience any of that. My prayer used to always be, it was two things. Lord, let me live long enough to get my children to an age that they could take care of themselves, that
Yeah.
they would not have to go or they wouldn't be go somewhere and be possibly mistreated by people,
Exactly.
whether that's family or whoever, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And then I started once I gave my life to Christ as a in my early 20s, when I started studying the Bible and stuff and started looking at my maternal side and just the history of children out of wedlock, teen pregnancies and things like
Mhm.
that. I
Mhm.
had to try to instill it in my children. So it's like, okay, look, it's gonna stop with me. So my
Yeah.
son didn't have his first child. John is 36. He didn't have his first child until he was 32.
Wow.
So I think I had something to do with them not rushing into.
I
It's like
love
you
how
got
you
plenty
I
of
like
time.
how
Just
you
wait.
said that though, because the stress and the trauma that you went through, and that's typically how we are. We want to do whatever we can to keep our children from having to experience the very
Hmm.
same. And you say that, but I remember even before my daughter, had her baby, like I would tell her, look, you don't want to do that. Like
Yeah.
it sounds all, they're cute when they're itty bitty, and but when you get into
Hmm.
parenthood, it's a whole new world. And so that freedom, everything
Yeah,
changes.
everything
And
changes,
so, and
It's like
even
you don't
though,
have to fit. I'm sorry.
no,
I'm
you're
sorry, I
fine.
thought you had stopped talking. No, I was just saying now you don't have just yourself to fend for. You have these little ones, they didn't ask to be here. And I may have scared them also because I used to tell them if you go out here, I'm not going to not help you. But I used to tell them all the time, you gonna take care of yours just like I took care of mine. I had to
Hmm.
take care of
Hmm.
y'all and bring y'all up.
Yeah, I
But
understand what you're saying.
yeah, so yeah, I just didn't want that for them. I
Yeah.
just didn't want them to experience that.
We always won't, but of course, now I stand on the word of God and stuff.
Mhm.
I do my best, and when it comes to teaching my children or anyone else or whatever, the
Yeah.
reality of it is just like we can't ignore the reality, because
Yeah.
we're ignoring those that actually need us when
Mhm.
those times do come. And so
Right.
with that being said, you do what you can with the capacity that you have to give from, and we try to teach them the best that we can, because we don't, and I tell my kids this all the time, and what you're saying, I know exactly what you're saying, because it's I am. um, they say you so overprotective and this, that, and the other, whatever else. And I had to really pray about that and think about it too, because I began to think, oh, I may be overprotective in their eyes, but the reality of it is that we can become fearful too, which
Yeah.
causes us to be overprotective, because we don't truly trust and believe God that that He's going to
Mhm.
make sure that as we do our part, He's going to do His part. So
Yeah.
if we're walking, a lot of times we can look at being overprotective, but it's actually a level of fear that's within us. And you said it, I don't want them to go out in some way, shape, form, or fashion they be mistreated, or be, mishandled in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I don't want them to have to go through the things that I went through. We do the best that we can with the capacity that we've been given.
Mhm.
And later on, when we get older, and our kids are in our position and the position that we're in right now, guess what? It'll be things that they've had to endure or whatever, and they will be telling their children the same thing. I did the best
Yeah.
I could with what I had to give at
Yeah.
that time. I
Yeah.
wanted to just share with the ladies, some strategies and things that they could help to better manage stress, because I know that we're talking about things that can be traumatizing in life. And guess what? You've named so many different things, but I wanted the women to understand that it's not just the what we consider to be big events or whatever.
Right.
You being a teenager, you good?
Yeah, I'm back. Well, okay, I didn't hear the last part of what you were saying. The screen started.
Okay, I
Here
was
we go.
saying that I wanted them, you know, um, oftentimes we fail to realize that when it comes to stress, it doesn't mean that it has to be something grandiose, like big, like a major event. You being a teenager, just trying to figure out life, and then being a teenager, having to figure out life with a baby. Then being
Mhm.
a young adult, having to try to figure out life for yourself with a baby, and then being married, then being a young adult, all these things, having to go through a divorce, because then there's that stress.
Yeah, and then at that time I had two. By that
Yes,
time I had
and
two
you had
children.
two at that time as well. And just life in general as a woman, if we eliminate and take everything else out the way, all the other titles, all the, whether it's being a mother, whether it's being a wife, whether just being a woman, Miss Michelle. Share with them or with us, because I tell people all the time, I'm learning every time we come on here. I'm learning and I'm gaining as well too. But what are some of the strategies for managing stress in a healthy way? What are some of those that you can give us on today?
Um, well, some things. The first thing I would say is you gotta try to find a support group. Or when I say a support group, it don't have to be a lot of people. It could just
Hmm.
be another person
I
that's
thank God for
maybe a
that one
single
person He gave
yeah,
you.
one or
Hmm.
two people. Maybe they're single mothers and they're struggling with some things as well. One of the things I learned, it wasn't in this area, but it was something else, that sometimes we have to become the thing that we need. We have to become
That's
that for
good.
somebody else, right? So if you're a single mother struggling and you're trying to find ways to combat stress, how to deal with parenting alone, um, you might have to, what we're doing right now, find
Yeah.
another woman that's going
Hmm.
through the same thing, or young adult or young person or whomever, whatever age that may be going through the same thing, and
Hmm.
try to work together. Some of the things that I did, when Tamika and John were younger, once I developed relationships with people that I trusted, like they only, it was like I said last week, there were only certain people that I would leave them with. That included
Right.
friends, even their friends.
Hmm.
So they had some friends whose parents I came to know and trust, and I know them right now. In fact, they're in Clarksville. They're doing ministry in Clarksville. You heard of Rainbow
Wow.
Ministries?
Yes. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
the halls. Yeah. Well,
Wow.
their children and my children became the best of friends. So, like some of the
I've
things
been to
we would
their event
do.
the past couple of years, and it just blessed me completely. I was actually a vendor, but the conference itself is just
Yeah.
amazing. Wow.
So, one of the way, sometime if you just need some downtime, like one of the things I would do, n- I may drop them off at the skating ring.
Hmm.
They may pick them up, so that give me a little
Yeah.
time to have just a little
To
time to
yourself. Hmm.
myself.
Yeah.
um Exercise is a good stress reliever. You don't have to go to Planet Fitness every day, or pull out the weights. You could just go for a walk. Put yourself on your calendar. You're going to have to make some
That's good.
time in your day for yourself, whether that's when the kids are asleep, depending on their age. If they're little kids, when they're asleep, if they can kind of fend for themselves, if they're preteens or whatever,
Hmm.
um, where they can, the food is there, they can feed themselves or whatever. When you
Hmm.
get home
Hmm.
from work or whatever, just kind of take an hour or so to yourself to decompress before
Yeah.
you try to deal with the children.
Hmm.
Another thing that I would say, Tamika and John were very active in school. Um, and I just couldn't be at everything.
Yeah.
I supported what they wanted to do, the extracurricular activities, but I couldn't be at everything. So you may have to narrow it down to one sport this year
Yeah.
instead of
And
three.
take away the guilt from not being
Yeah,
there.
and yeah, because you can't, if they're doing three, they got to get there, they got to come, you got to get them
Hmm.
there, it could be stress, financial stress from them being
Yes.
in different activities. So you may have
Hmm.
to cut back on some of the activities. Don't eliminate everything, because they do
Hmm.
need positive things to do. But those are some things, like I said, if they're smaller kids, just taking a bubble bath. You
Hmm.
wouldn't
Hmm.
believe how just soaking in a warm tub, hot tub of bubble bath water.
Hmm. Look, you
It,
say that, and it tickles me so bad. I shared something a couple of weeks ago. This new age, when I say my daughter has tickled me, I said my grandbaby is the only one that I know that actually has a spa treatment when it's bath time. And when I say she be in there, she got the music playing. She's in there. The baby is in there. When I say my daughter, she is at the spa, and it
mm-hmm.
tickles me so bad because I'm like, honey, we used to growing up. We used to get some dishwasher liquid, get in that tub, make them bubbles with the dishwasher.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever
You
we
remember
had.
Mr. Bubbles? You remember Mr. Bubbles, right? What Mr. Bubbles? Yeah, that was our
Look,
spot
we
treat.
didn't have all this extra stuff or whatever, but we were satisfied with that. And when we could
Yeah,
be in there,
yeah.
to ourselves, it was all fine and dandy. But it tickles me so bad because when you said that, yeah, that's so key because if they're at the age where they're able to do that. But you know what, Miss Michelle, you even said something else too that really, really has stuck with me. You said, put yourself on your calendar.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah,
put
you have to for your
everybody else.
before your own mental sanity. Just for you,
Yes,
so you can cope. That way you're not taking your frustration or worry or stress out on the kids. Um,
exactly.
you know, if you're not good with money, I'm going to say that can alleviate a whole bunch of stress if you learn
Mm-hmm.
how to budget
Yes.
and live on a budget.
Please speak on it. Yes.
You don't have to make a whole lot. I mean, well, we do, you know what you need to survive, but
Exactly.
you got to be able to have a budget, things like that. And I'll be honest, I was making some decent money, but I wasn't very good with budgeting. I was in
Poor.
survival
Yeah.
mode.
Right.
I really was. I think from the time I left um, my aunt's house in Michigan and got married, from that point on, I think I was in survival mode until Tamika and them got out of high school,
Mm.
college, pretty
I've been in
much.
that place before, and I've shared, which I'm not going to go into this evening because I want them to
Yeah.
gain. But just not having Pampers, you got to pick and choose between whether you're going to eat or whether you're going to make sure
Yeah.
your baby got Pampers
Yeah.
or you got the daycare money to pay for or
Yeah.
whatever. These are things as single mothers that we have to figure. Like this day and age, you working just to pay day. Like I couldn't
Oh
even do
yeah.
anything else. And that's where the credit, when you talk about budgeting and stuff, that's where the credit card debt and stuff come into play because I could not afford to
Hmm.
do all these extra other things other than pay bills and here I am thinking, okay, well, I'll get a credit card. And then I'm going and charging up
Yeah.
all the clothes and everything else, trying to keep up with those that I was with and creating even
Hmm.
more debt when later on
More.
you want to try to be able to get a house and stuff, but your credit and stuff is messed up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
before we even do all of these things, Miss Michelle, one thing
Hmm.
that I wrote down is we cannot be afraid to ask for help
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
have someone that God has blessed you with, sometimes because we've been, brought up and we have that tough exterior. And we don't want to give the impression that we are in any type of need or there's something that's
Hmm.
going on. We're afraid to let it be known or let that vulnerable state be shown. So we don't want to ask or
It's
even
your birth.
acknowledge. You see what I'm saying? Oh, did you freeze up on me?
I did.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
You
I see
said
you.
ask for help.
But yeah, we become afraid to even ask because we don't want to look weak. We don't want to look
And
as
sometimes
if
we're
we
embarrassed.
exactly,
I mean, because there have been
exactly.
times I was serving in church, I was a member in church, and I always felt like there were times where I could have used some financial assistance, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
ask
Wasn't gonna
because
ask, yeah.
I had what they term a good job,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I always felt like
Mm.
somebody needed it more than I did. It was that somebody else needed it more than I did. But yeah, you can't be
Mm.
afraid to ask for help. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes we have to become for someone else what we need. Like, even if you're on
Mm.
here and you married, if you know someone that's single and you know that they don't get a chance to get out much, you can
That
just
was what I wrote
volunteer
down.
to babysit for a couple hours just to
Exactly.
get them a chance to get out and be around some adults and just have a
Yeah.
little free time to themselves.
Yeah, just so they can
Um,
breathe a little bit. I know.
that was
Um.
one thing. You still there? Okay. Yeah. Before I
Yes, I
got
am.
it,
Mhm.
look, before I got into Christ, I would hit a club every now and then. You hear me? So one of my best girlfriends, her
Look,
teenage
well, I've
daughter,
been there too. Yeah.
She was really good with the kids, and Tamika and John really liked her. So I would have her come to my house
Yeah.
and watch them. If I had to travel for my job, she has stayed at my house
Mhm.
with them to make sure they get off to school and everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, you really need to just try to find some type of support. Like I said, if it's just one
Mhm.
person where you all can encourage each other,
Right.
or it could be a
Right.
group of you. You could take turns. Maybe if you're single, and maybe if you know two or three other single ladies, y'all could
Yep.
take turns 1 week out of the month,
Exactly.
where one
Yeah.
person 1 weekend out of the month, maybe on a Saturday or a Sunday, where one
Mhm.
person have the kids and let that person go out. Just switch up
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah. That's
um,
awesome. You had
and
some more
pray
points?
and get a prayer life. That's all. I mean, and
Yeah.
stick close to God, because
Yes.
you know I can't stop talking about God, because
That relationship is so key.
that
Like we can have all the relationships in the world,
the
but that
word,
is the one that
that's the
matters
most
most.
important. Yeah,
And we can't effectively, if you would, this is me, look, I'm not going to preach or anything, but we can't be effective in other relationships until we learn the value of having a relationship with God. And
hmm,
so, us trying to figure it out for ourselves, that's going to always be the foundation. We can talk about this all day long, but I'm speaking from experience myself.
yeah,
And I can only tell you what I've come to know for myself. This is my
yeah,
journey. I understood, and this is one lesson that I learned, growing up, of course, paying my tithes,
hmm,
and understanding the reason why. And I try to tell my kids, hey, if you don't do nothing else, honor the Lord with what He
yeah,
has given you. Honor Him. And guess what? I told my son, I said, you know what? We were talking about tithes, one paying tithes, and I said, I know it's not something that's popular. I said, but I can honestly say that even when I did not have a dime, because I paid my tithes, God never allowed me to go without. I might
hmm,
not have all the money in the world or whatever else, but as a single mother, and you said something else too, even if you are married, you said reach out. And but you know what, there's some people that are married that are still single mothers even in
that
the
was
marriage.
me. Remember, I said that
Yeah,
last week.
yeah,
That
you
was
did.
me. I did
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
and trying to stay in that toxic relationship. But when the epiphany hit me, it's like, wait a minute,
Mhm, mhm.
you're doing everything.
Yeah, yeah.
I was out of
and,
there.
and so we
It's like, if I'm
having
doing
that.
everything, I might as well do it by myself
Yeah,
and get out of this toxicity.
come on.
And
Look,
that's what
that's
I
a whole
did.
nother, I was gonna say that's a whole nother conversation instead,
I'm
because we can go
sorry.
on and on about that.
But
No, you
yeah,
fine. But you hitting the nail on the head. You right on it. Yeah. Yeah, you
yeah,
are. Um this has been such a blessing. There's so much more that we could share because, like I said, we're just hearing little snapshots of your
yeah,
testimony. But there's so much to it, and even when it comes to those who, these ladies, and it doesn't, like I said before, it doesn't matter what age they are, being a mother in itself, but being a single
yeah,
mother, trying to figure life out, trying to life
yeah,
can get the best of you at times. But one thing that I find joy in knowing, and as I sit and and like last time when I was listening to you, I was thinking about days after whatever, and even just sitting tonight, so many points of your testimony and just how you were feeling and the things that you were enduring. It really registers with me on the inside. I know with a lot of other young ladies and stuff as well too. It registers because we felt that pain, we felt that emptiness, we felt that
hmm,
stress, we felt all of those insecurities, we felt less than, we have felt
yeah,
all these things that impact us in such a way, and it begins to bog us down. But God,
hmm,
and I love
yeah,
how you said last week, you were building, look, I say a faith vow. Your faith was being built every step of the
hmm.
way. And now what you can do is go back in your faith vow and look at how he brought you through or how he was with you
Oh
through
yeah,
whatever period of time. and we can say, thank you, Lord, even through those times. Like, my story is not exactly like your story. Your story is not like someone else's story that's listening. But the foundation of it is we all have a story, a testimony,
Yeah.
and we can all become better in our walks as we strive to be a support to one another. If we strive to try to lift the burden or the weights off of someone, even if it's just being a listening ear, because
Right, right.
oftentimes they just want somebody to talk to
Somebody,
instead of
yeah.
having to talk to the kids all the time.
Yeah. You know, y'all, I'm on Facebook, so if anybody,
I was waiting for you to say that.
yeah, you can reach out to me. I'm in the group too. I'm in the Boss
Yeah.
Lady group.
Hmm.
What's my name on Facebook? Yvette Michelle.
Yeah.
I flipped it. Flipped it.
I tag
It's
you on
Yvette
there, so I'll
Michelle,
make
but you
sure
can
they have
definitely
it.
find me in the group, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna tag your name. I always tag your name and stuff, but I'll make sure that they have it
Yeah. Okay.
in the
I don't
comments
mind
and
talk.
stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
that sometimes
I'll
they just
just
need
say,
some.
just don't be so hard on yourselves.
Yeah.
This does not come with a playbook. I'm telling you, it really doesn't. Other than the Bible, that can give you wisdom on things and just the insight, God and the Holy Spirit just giving you wisdom and insight. It don't come with a playbook. And
Mm-mm.
the one thing I used to always hear, and it took me a long time. People used to always say after Tamika and John got up to the age,
Yeah.
teenagers and young adults and all that. Oh, you did such an awesome job with them. And it wasn't until I realized it's like, okay, is that a backhand compliment? Did you think I was not going to do a good job?
Right.
Did
Right.
you think
Right.
because I had them at such a young age, you just didn't, you know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? I know the
Yeah.
odds were against me.
Yeah.
I didn't do everything right. But I took what my grandmother instilled in me for 15 years, I'm
Yes.
gonna say, because I went to her at a year and 10 months old, and when I left her, I was 16. So I
Yes.
took what she put in me in those 15 years and tried to figure and I ran with what she gave me, and I had to figure the
Mm-hmm.
rest out on my own along the way. Did I do everything
Yeah.
right? No. Are there some things I probably could have done better? Yeah, maybe. But I feel like I did
Mm-hmm.
the best I could to
Yeah.
give them the best life that I could give them. We didn't,
Mm-hmm.
and this is no shade on anybody that ever
Yeah.
has or ever will need to. They were not in the projects. We weren't
Mm-hmm.
living with rats and roaches, and they had a
Mm-hmm.
good life.
Yeah.
I believe they had a
Yeah.
good life.
Yeah.
And I think they had much more than most,
Yeah.
with some children with two parents in the home. So yeah, give yourself a
Mm.
break. Um,
Yeah. Please do, because
don't beat yourself up.
one thing I had to learn, Miss Michelle, was especially in my walk and in my relationship with the Lord for myself, um, Jesus loves us. And look, I want to tell them, Jesus loves you. Remove that guilt and shame
Yeah,
that's you've allowed to weigh you down, that you've tried to carry, because that's not how he sees you. That's not how he sees you at
no,
all. And I wish
no,
someone had taken the time to remind me of that back then, because we carry a lot because of what we feel others are thinking and saying when it comes to
yeah,
us, you know.
but
Um, go ahead.
yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Oh no, okay, I was gonna say yeah, and that's just a trick of the enemy.
It is.
He
Mm-hmm.
starts working on us as early as he can,
Yep.
as early
Mm-hmm.
as he can. But another thing that we have to remember too, it took me, I was probably well in my 30s before I started realizing this, but we have to remember that God is the giver of life. He
Yes.
might have been doing something that the world, that's based on the world, well, not the world, biblical standards, because we're supposed to abstain until marriage, right?
Mm.
That's what the word tells us or teaches. But even though we were out there doing something maybe that we probably shouldn't have been doing, it's some people that's been doing some things we just can't see what they were doing.
Come on.
We
Come
don't
on.
know what they were doing. and our mishaps just happen to be able to be seen.
Mhm. Yep,
But what
that's
we
true.
gotta realize is that God is the giver of life.
Yes.
He had to get somebody into the earth through
Yeah.
us.
Mm, mm,
So
mm,
at the
mm.
appointed time, what the scripture say in Jeremiah, before I formed
Mm.
you in your mother's
You
womb,
just read
I
my
knew
mind.
you.
I'm sitting here waiting to say it. You
So
said
he
it right
already
there.
knew us. He already knew that we was
Already.
gonna get. I was gonna get together
Nothing
with
catches him
John,
by surprise.
and John
Mm.
has been taken by surprise. And he knew that he
Mm.
wanted to use me. He was gonna
Yeah.
create that life. It's not a curse. Does it happen
Mm-mm.
sometimes when we feel it's not the right time? Yes.
Mm.
But the
Yeah.
life that we carry and that we bring
Hmm.
forth into the earth was created by God. Can't nobody
Yeah.
do that but him.
Exactly. Exactly.
So we
That's
gotta
true.
look at it like that too. You know,
Nothing catches God by surprise.
nothing. He already knew this
Nothing.
was gonna happen.
He already know the thought before we even have the thought.
Yeah, that's what I said. Matter of fact, he chose you to carry that child or those children and to
Come
give
on.
birth to them.
Mm, 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 mm. It's just up
And
to
that
us to
may be your
realize.
I'm sorry. I was
No,
gonna
you're
say
fine.
that may be
Go
the only thing he chooses you to do. Because
I was
now
gonna say
when I
that.
look
Yeah.
at it, it's like, okay, he used my mom and my dad to get me here.
Yep. That's right.
People can be mothers, but everybody is not mothering.
Mm, that's good.
So when I look back over my life, I had to go to my grandmother. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I feel like I don't know what my life would be like if I would not have went with her. Even though
Mm,
growing up, I didn't understand that. I felt
yeah.
abandoned. I felt rejected.
Exactly.
I felt like my parents didn't want me,
Mm-hmm.
and it was
Mm-hmm.
none of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The
But
pain, the
I think my
process
life
was
is better.
painful.
Yeah,
Yeah. The
yeah.
process was painful, but it's necessary. And it's necessary for such a time as this because you're literally pouring back into it's somebody that needed
I hope
this.
somebody's
And
getting
you're
some.
going to continue even from here on going out or whatever. There's going to be times and opportunities for you to continue to pour back into other women along the way.
Well,
This
I
time is
appreciate you
already
having me on
ordained.
because a lot of people, I don't tell my story. My children, they just know bits and pieces. They don't know the whole story either. So, uh,
Oh,
no
well,
one
this has
knows
been a
everything. You know what
blessing.
I mean?
Yeah,
They don't.
yeah.
I don't really talk about it a lot. I reflect. I
Mm-hmm.
reflect on all the things I've been through, how hard it was. But
Mm,
but I'm a survivor. It built resilience. It made me who I am today. So
yeah,
I just
yeah,
thank
yeah.
God that I
Most
survived.
definitely. Well, I am going to let you just close out by encouraging the ladies. And this has been absolute. I want to just say thank you again for taking the time out of your schedule. I don't hold it lightly by far.
You're
And
welcome.
I really appreciate because everything that you've shared has been such a blessing. And I know that there is someone that has been, whether they are single mothers, whether they are single ladies out there trying to
Mhm.
figure it out and survive life in the marriage, trying to survive. And guess what? That whole survival mode thing. I'm sure all of us can testify
Yeah.
or say that in some way, shape, or fashion we've been there. So we don't discount anything else that anyone else has had to endure. Um, I just want you to encourage them right quick before we go, regardless of where they may be in life, but especially with our single mothers. I want them to understand that we see them and that they are not, there's something that's going to come. God has always had them on my heart. So there's more to this that's going to come. And
Mhm.
yes, Miss Michelle is going to be there and she'll be able to talk to y'all in person. Come on through here then. But just
You
so
said,
you would
"Come on
know,
through here."
come on through. Come on. Look. But
Oh
yeah, I
God.
want you to just encourage them because I have been blessed once again, of course. And I just thank you so much. Your testimony, it just can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
I wish you just had time to just share it all. But I know that someone was able to take something from what you did share on today, but just encourage them so that they can be empowered when they leave this time that we've been able to share. They won't leave the same way that they came.
Okay. Um, if you're on tonight, and I'll start with the single mother since we're honoring you guys for the month
Mhm.
of April. You really don't, you need a whole year. We need to honor
Right.
you guys every day. We really
Mhm.
do because
Mhm.
just know that you're not alone. That you are loved, and that it gets hard at times. Give yourself grace. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, really give yourself grace. Um, and there's gonna be days that you're gonna ask, you may feel like you can't do it. You're gonna ask yourself if you can do it, and you don't know how you're gonna do it.
Mhm.
Again, I just can't stop going back to God.
Yeah.
Put your hand in His hand. Trust Him. Have faith, and let Him lead you. Will you always know each step? No, you're not. You know,
Yeah.
it's like I did some stuff. Now, when I look back, I don't know how I did it.
Look.
I don't. I do not know. So just be encouraged. If you need if you need something, reach out to me in the group. I'll make
Mhm.
myself available to anyone that wants to talk.
Mhm.
You can message me on Messenger, um, and encourage someone else. Sometimes
Yeah.
if we can take the focus off of us and
Mhm.
put it on someone else, you'd be surprised the wonders that does for us too.
Mhm. It
So
is
as a
so
single
true.
mom, just know that you are loved. God chose you. He chose you to birth that child. He chose you to steward that child's life.
That's
And
good.
so give yourself grace to be the best steward over the children that God has placed in your care at this time. And just be
Mhm.
encouraged. I just can't. I'm not a
Mhm.
speaker, so I don't really know. You know what I mean? I'm speaking from the heart, but just be encouraged,
Yeah,
please.
you're fine. Yeah.
Um, if you need help, ask for help. Somebody
Yeah.
will help you.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
you got to if you're prideful, get over the pride, because that
Mhm.
will cause you to suffer a lot longer than you
Yeah.
have to.
Yep.
So don't be afraid to ask for help. Become the
Mhm.
thing, become for someone else what you need.
Yes.
And just keep one day at a time. Don't get
Mhm.
don't get ahead of God. Don't
Mhm.
try to figure out tomorrow. Don't worry about what happened yesterday. Just stay in the moment. Just stay in
Yep.
the moment and let Him lead you and guide you.
Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
that's
Thank
for the
you
single
so much.
moms. Anybody that's
Mhm.
single, while you waiting on God to send you a spouse, be encouraged. Don't take no shortcuts.
Come on.
Don't single moms. I know it's tempting. You don't need no sugar daddy. You don't
Come
need no
on.
sugar baby. Don't that's candy. That the little sugar babies. Remember the
Uh-huh.
sugar daddy
The
lollipops?
little trouble. Look, stick
That's
all in your
candy.
teeth.
We don't want no human forms of sugar babies or sugar daddies, okay? Because I'm gonna tell you, I just said this one little thing. There were plenty times after I divorced that the thought tried to come to my head, and it did. I had to rebuke that thing. It's
Yeah.
like I should have just
Yeah.
stayed with him, or I should go back. Maybe it'll be a little
Mm.
easier, but it wouldn't have been. It would have been
Yeah.
worse.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
try God. Try God. He can provide everything
Yeah.
you need. Everything you need. I don't care
Mhm.
who come along and offer you something.
Mm. There is a
But
book.
yeah. Huh?
Yeah, I was going to say there's a book, and I can't remember the author, but it's called Lady in Waiting. It's like one of the best books. If you guys have you heard
Oh,
of it?
I have. I think I got it in
Yeah,
one of these
that's
boxes of books I
awesome.
have around here. Another good book is by Dr. Miles Monroe. May he rest in peace. It's called Married, Married Single, Married, and Life After Divorce. They redid that book
Wow.
too. Yeah, it's called Married. What did I say? Married,
Single, married, and
Single,
life after.
Married, and Life After Divorce by Dr. Miles Monroe. That's a
Okay.
really good book.
I'll put
Um,
these two once we finish. I'll put these in the comments so that they can know,
mhm.
find these books if they want to.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I got a whole bunch more I could add to the group too as I come across them. But
Yeah,
I have
something that's
I got a
really
lot of
dropped in
books.
my spirit. We may create a branch for single mothers with the group so they can have a private space and you
Yeah,
can so yeah, you can maybe you can pray about that about kind of helping
yeah, or maybe
with
we could
that.
do an outing or something once a
Yeah,
month or something.
most
It don't
definitely.
have to be anything fancy. It could just,
Just
getting
getting together
together.
to have some
Yeah.
dinner or to do something. We definitely be figuring it out. So
Hmm.
I appreciate you so much. I so
Wings
appreciate
and the
you.
word. Wings and the word.
She didn't look. I'm writing it down. She didn't say it. Wings
Wings
and
and the word.
look. I like that. I like that. And I'm always for hosting something. So look, we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna definitely figure it out.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
be a blessing. And I really want to make sure, even if it is just once a month, whether it's virtually or we do an outing, we can figure out something where we can come
Mhm.
together and be a support, in that area when it comes to our single mothers. So
And just one more thing, if I
mhm,
may. I
yeah.
just heard this too. If you are on the line, like if you can afford therapy or a therapist or mental health professional, or if you're in a church or somewhere that offers that, or someone that you trust, look into that as well to help manage stress and deal with
Yeah.
other issues. It's no
Mhm.
shame in that. Um, one of these days I'm gonna be a license. One of these days I'm gonna have my license, y'all. I'm still working on it. I got a
It's coming.
certificate in biblical counseling. I got an associate degree in psychology. I'm still trying to finish that bachelor so I can get to that master's. But
Yeah, it'll come. It's gonna come.
um,
It's gonna
yeah,
come.
look into therapy if you can afford it, or if you have health benefits, or
Mhm.
if your employer provides. I know we have employee what's called EPA,
Mm,
employee assistance, EAP, employee assistance program, where they provide different services. I mean, two or
mhm.
three, four counseling sessions, something like that. So look into that. There's no shame in that either, because
Right.
a good therapist can give you some tools to use on
Mhm.
how to cope,
That's true.
on how to cope
That's true.
with parenting alone, and how to deal with
Mhm.
the children. Just that'll help as well. So I know
Mhm.
you're not
That's
feeling too
awesome.
hot, so I'm gonna close my mouth.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, y'all, my allergies are already trying to whoop me, but that's okay. This has been well worth it. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah,
And we will connect and trying to get things situated. This has been such a blessing. Thank you so much again. I'm just
you're
gonna
welcome.
tell the ladies, you got to go back and of course get in there and see the comments and stuff or whatever. But like we said, don't feel ashamed or don't feel like you don't have someone that doesn't understand because we do. And that's what we're here for. So if you reach
Mhm.
out, like Miss Michelle said, you can reach out to her or you can reach out to me, or we're going to have something set up where we can have a safe place for our single mothers to
Yeah,
be able to come and get what they need through the boss lady movement. This is going to be a branch. This is something that's going to be something powerful and just is much needed in this season that we're in. So
yeah,
we're definitely going to work on that. Until then, until next week, I thank you guys. I thank you, Miss Michelle, for coming
you're
on,
welcome.
sharing again. And I thank you guys. I don't have my music tuned in again, but guess what? It has been well worth it.
It's
And
okay.
we will get with you guys again next Tuesday, God willing. If He says so, then we will be here. But this is not the end. This is a beautiful beginning of the Boss Lady movement, single mothers. We're going to get that piece in there, that branch.
Yeah,
And she already said it, wings in the word. So we're going to figure that
wings
whole
and
piece
the
out.
word.
We're going to figure it out. It's going to be good, y'all. So
Yeah.
tag a sister, let them know, another single mother, let them know that it's coming up and we're going to get together and we will see you guys, or I will see you guys again on here next Tuesday. I can't remember who our special guest is next Tuesday, but we got a good lineup for this month as we continue to honor our single mothers. We are
Awesome.
saying thank you and good night. This is the Boss Lady checking
Thank
out as
you.
we are
Good night,
bringing other
everyone.
sisters into success. Thank you again, and we look forward to connecting with everyone again on next Tuesday if the Lord says so. So be blessed.
All right. Good night. You want me to stay back?
Yes, ma'am.